Thank you so much and good morning to you. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I started out teaching in high school, so it's been a long time since I've addressed an audience like this, but I hope that what I've prepared to say to you today will fall on receptive hearts. I understand that you've been dealing with overcoming the media, and that's a powerful foe. We all are exposed to and therefore influenced by the media. But let me just give you a couple of points this morning as you think about that for this week and for the ensuing days that you will be dealing with overcoming the media. Please excuse the first part of this because I wanted to make sure that I said what I wanted to say, so I put it down. I have an example that I want to share with you from my own life as well that I hope will help you to understand the points that I'm trying to make this morning. By the time we come to realize the power of the media to influence our thinking and behavior, we've already been affected for better and sometimes for worse. The media often determines what we believe or disbelieve, what we accept as true or false, what we believe is moral or immoral, and what we believe is right and wrong. Whether in its written, audio, or video form, the influence of media is so widespread that we cannot avoid it unless we separate ourselves from society and find a cave somewhere to live in. As a matter of fact, much of what we read and hear and see in the media encourage us to violate the teachings of the scriptures. So, how can we overcome the negative influences of media? How can we overcome the negative influences of media? I believe a good start is similar to this statement. Someone has said, we can't stop birds from flying over our heads, but we can certainly stop them from building nests in our hair. I believe that according to 1 Corinthians 15:33, the scriptures teach us that bad company corrupts good character. And bad company often comes in the form of media. Therefore, what I would suggest is that number one, you get in the habit of playing the tape all the way out. What do I mean when I say play the tape all the way out? Don't simply look at the immediate effects of your choices, but consider the possible outcomes and or consequences of the decisions that you make. We're often in the habit of making decisions and looking at the immediate results. Well, as you grow, you'll learn that not only do you need to look at the immediate results, but the long-term results as well. So before a decision is acted upon, you actually play out in your mind, how might this end up? What might be the results or consequences of this decision I'm making today? The example that I wanted to share with you from my personal life is during a time that I was in college at Harding University, and that's been some 40 years ago. I was a preaching student there, majoring in Bible and English. We had several students on campus with whom I'd become very close and was hoping that we could convert those students to Christ. Of my immediate circle, I was the only one with a car. So on Fridays, these guys would come to me to take them to the club. In Searcy, Arkansas, there were no clubs. Searcy is a college town, believe me. Even the 7-Eleven closes up at 9 o'clock. You have nothing to do there but study. So on Fridays, they would come to me and say, hey, you're going to take us to Kensett, which was a little town about maybe 20 miles outside of, away from Searcy. So you're gonna take us down so we can find a few girls to date, do a little dancing, whatever. And I said, yeah, I'll take you down. Against my better thinking, I took them to a juke joint. And I promised myself that I wasn't gonna go in. I sat out in the car while they went in. But even while I was sitting in the car, I could hear that music thumping inside. And eventually I found myself tapping the steering wheel or bobbing my head. You know, I was a preaching student, so I was going to lead the way. I was going to show them that I could take them without getting involved. Well, the first time I didn't get involved, it worked. I stayed out there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, waiting on them, and eventually they came out and they talked about the great time they had inside. The second time I took them, I said to myself, well, it won't hurt to go in. That music sounds so good. I'd like to see them actually dancing to the music. So the second time I took them, I went in with them. I didn't have anything to drink other than a Coke, but I enjoyed sitting there watching them dance to the music. The third time I took them, I had already practiced a few steps in my mind that I remembered from my high school days. And as I heard that music pumping, I said, boy, man, it's getting harder now, you know. And I'm sitting there looking at them, and all of a sudden I found myself up asking a young lady to dance. She accepted. We went out on the floor. And of course, I did it with some pride because I wanted to show the fellows that I had a few steps of my own that I could do. And I did that. And on the way back to the campus that night, they said to me, you know, you really didn't have to do that. As a matter of fact, we were expecting that you wouldn't do that. They let me know on the way back to campus that I had really disappointed them. That even though they were asking me to take them, they expected me to keep myself separate in terms of my actions from their actions. You can't imagine how terrible I felt, because I expected when we got back in the car, they would say, man, we didn't know you could dance. But their attitude was just the opposite. They were saying to me, why did you dance? Even though we were enjoying it, you're a preaching student. Why'd you get up and do that? You disappointed us. I remained their friends. But from that day until we left there, some of those young men changed their relationship with me. It wasn't ugly or nasty, but they let me know from time to time that I had become something that they expected a whole lot different from. So what is the point of that example? There is somebody out there who's depending on you to say no. There's somebody out there depending on you to stand up against sin, against whatever. You may not know who they are, but somebody is looking at you and saying, you set the standard for me. I'm going to be able to say no if you say no. My message to you today is simply, don't let them down. Don't make the same mistake I made, trying to fit in. Because some of your friends, even though they say things around you and play around with you, there are some things they don't expect you to do that they do with no conscience. Will you pray with me?